Can you hear me? Yeah. It's kind of funny that you're funded by Google's CH4HS, and this is about the same thing. So it's interesting. First of all, I have a confession to make. This is pretty shameful. But about 2 months ago, I really didn't know what constructionism was. I had heard of it, but from someone who's made a transition from theoretical computer science into education. When you start doing educational research, you hear a lot of theories and paradigms, and constructivism, not construction, but constructivism can be, Piaget and all that, but it's also a theory and a different paradigm about, suppose structuralist theory is called constructivism too. So, there's all these names that you hear and you don't immediately embrace them all. So when I read the paper on constructionism, I had seen it. I immediately didn't embrace it and say, I am a constructionist. So that is my confession. So because this paper was written before that, well, you'll see. It's funny, it's written before it, but I think the spirit of what we were trying to do is exactly a constructionism spirit. I find it very hard to be behind a table, isn't it? It's like, let me walk around. A little bit of a background to the story. There is a new digital technologies curriculum in Australia that was approved in December. Across the board, K to 12. And every teacher has to start implementing it across KLAs. KLAs, key learning areas, do you use that terminology too? Yeah. Not in every country, subjects, right? So mathematics teachers, science teachers, English literature teachers. So, and in this new curriculum, it says that computational thinking and systems thinking has to be part of education, just like reading and writing and arithmetic is part of the curriculum. So, teacher preparation therefore becomes crucial because most of teachers in Australia had not heard about computational thinking before, or systems thinking. And all of a sudden there is this need for professional development for teachers. There has been, as far as I know, very few professional development initiatives for teachers. CS4HS is one of them, which is funded by Google, and their workshops, normally they are 2 days, and they fund you to give 2 days. We've managed to stretch it to 4 this year, but in the previous 2 years it was only 2 days. And then they funded the University of Adelaide to do a MOOC for teachers, which apparently is pretty good and it's very popular. Teachers really like it. And as I said, we've realized that the way we taught teachers, the pedagogy that we used, not that we wanted the teachers to use with the students, because they normally have their ways, but at least what we used to teach them was very important to get our message across. And we tried to think about different ways of improving our pedagogy for our teacher training courses, and we decided to do a little bit of a pilot project, researchy thing, around this topic in this year CS4HS workshops. So we wanted to systematically review our pedagogy. That's it's a research project to provide a strong focus on computational thinking and systems thinking. And I've written the definition, but I've realized that I don't need you to, because you know that. It's good to be here. So the workshops taught a particular programming language. For example, we did Python with secondary school teachers, and we did Scratch with primary school teachers. And we also got concepts like data mining. What is data mining? And we use different tools. Like we use Excel for data mining. And the design, I can't be behind. So we wanted to communicate the applicability of computational thinking and system thinkers across a range of domains. So it was not just for technology, it was for other things, medicine, and how this is applicable to many domains. We wanted to provide examples of activities that would map to the digital technologies curriculum, because they need that, like, concrete things. And materials that they could just take into the classroom and walk into the classroom and tailor to their own styles, but be able to use. Because what we heard from the teachers is, please don't come here and lecture us, just give us something that we can take to the classroom, right? So it's just really standard professional development for teachers. And this is really Dan's thing. Dan is the co-author of this paper, and he's my PhD student. He is technically not yet my PhD student. He will be in about 2 weeks when the scholarship kicks in. This is his pilot project, and this is what he wants to do his PhD on. He would love to be here, but this conference actually coincides in time. But this is Dan.
The University of Newcastle Centre about Computer Science and its applications. The team spans 3 different faculties, but we all have one common goal, and that is to show teachers a range of opportunities that computer science offers and how fun it can be. We've run computer science workshops for teachers since 2013. We've had teachers come from the Hunter region, the Central Coast, and even Sydney. We've even had teachers come from as far north as Grafton and as far west as Narromine and Walgett. We want to keep running these professional development workshops for educators that will be teaching the digital technologies curriculum. We'd like to increase the number of workshops that we run every year so that we can reach a large number of teachers. We're currently researching different teaching strategies that we use during the workshops, and we hope to publish our work in 2016. We're hoping to increase collaboration with Google, volunteer organisations such as RoboGal, and researchers from other universities.
I just wanted you to see that found out, so it's more like a research paper rather than explaining like you have what you actually do with the teachers. But you can get an idea there of the types of things that are happening with the teachers. This is the structure of the workshops. We've had 2 this year, as I said, so both of them are 2 days. We call the advanced workshops. They're mostly for high school teachers, and the introductory workshops are mostly for primary school teachers. They are, the advanced workshops are for technologies teachers, and we open it to mathematics and science teachers, but they are mostly technology teachers. A note here, in Australia, technology teachers were trained mostly for doing metalwork and woodwork, so they have absolutely no experience programming.
Questions?
So we had 3 sessions in those 2 days. One about web technologies, where we taught them a little bit of JavaScript, data mining with Excel, and app design with App Inventor. And for the introductory workshop, we did Scratch, we did algorithms with Mindstone robots, and then app design with App Inventor too. It was a research project, and we wanted to test whether our ideas about pedagogy were right, and the way we wanted to teach things actually was better than any other normal way of teaching things. We designed 2 of the sessions following a different pattern. The other ones are very traditional, right? We teach them a little bit of JavaScript, we give them some worksheet that they have to follow instructions, program the thing, and see what happens. And whereas this data mining one and the Mindstones one were designed a little bit different, in a way that I think is more related to constructionism. But the other ones, very traditional.
Even visual polymorphs.
It was traditional. We gave them the commands, we let them play a little bit, but there was no collaboration, there was no time for reflection. It was just sort of 3 hours of good old boring how to do Scratch. I mean, we didn't do that to purposely annoy them. It was just that they had reported really good results for teaching groups that are heterogeneous, where the knowledge level of programming is quite varied. So yeah, we decided to adopt that. That's what Dan wanted to do, and I read it, and it sounded really quite reasonable to me. So it was like, well, let's try it. And then it's called 5 C's, because you've got consistency, collaboration, cognition, conception, and creativity. That's all the things that are tagged. And then each of the sessions, according to this 5 C's framework, follows always the same pattern. That's the consistency part of it. You've got first an explanation, is short, an elaboration of what the task could be, or the task that they can choose is really quite free, the type of things that they can do with it. Then they conceive their idea and then communicate the idea to others. Then they interact with other people to create whatever it is that they've decided to do. And then they do some form of collaborative problem solving where they come up with something and present it to the rest of the people at the workshop. So I think it does fit the constructionist. And the people reviewing my paper thought so too, because otherwise I wouldn't be here. So that's the one. We have 2 research questions, as you do, and well, essentially is does this was if our results were comparable to the ones reported by Tom in that 2015 paper where she presented that 5 C's framework. And to find this out, we did surveys. We did surveys right after the workshop, and we did surveys 3 months after the workshop. And then to see whether they've implemented it and how, we are going to do in about 3 weeks' time focus group session, and we're going to ask them some questions. I'm bringing this here just to get feedback on what you think. So I can give you a little bit of the results of what we found so far, but really what I'm after is feedback on the questions for the focus groups, because we haven't done those yet. So these are the questions for the workshop survey. The teaching methods were appropriate. For the concept learned, this is what we asked the teachers. This session allowed me to improve my higher order thinking skills. I understood the concepts presented in this session. The collaborative nature of the session helped me understand. Not all sessions were collaborative, so we didn't get answers for those. And I was able to find creative solutions. And it was Vickers, from strongly disagree to strongly agree. As the workshop survey, and then there was a follow-up survey that asked that, plus a few open-ended questions. I'm going quickly because I don't want to go over time. For the advanced, so the high school one, all 9 teachers that were there responded to the survey. This is, not really statistically representative in any way, shape, or form. But there was 2 female and the rest were male. One of the females was a pre-service teacher that somehow wanted to do it, which was quite nice, we thought. And most of the teachers had been teachers for more than 5 years, and only one had been teacher for more than 15 years. So, the level of experience was relatively sort of average, I suppose. They all liked it. It happens when you ask people, do you like this thing after they've done it? And they're like, yeah, I had fun, we played with robots. And the only thing, oops, where am I? One thing that was interesting, here. That's the Likert scale for all the sessions. The ones that were constructionism, or 5 C's we call them, it's called the worst. And the ones that they preferred were the direct instruction ones. So that sort of contradicts what you get in. You seem to say that they really like it, although perhaps it's a little bit different, because you were not testing one thing against the other. But I found it quite interesting, right? Like, I'm all excited about changing the pedagogy and teaching things in a way that then perhaps they can use to teach. No. They wanted the worksheet and work through the things and be by themselves. They actually did say things like, I just didn't have time to sit down and absorb things by myself. because I had to be talking to other people, and I didn't like that. So I thought that was an interesting thing. And for the follow-up for this one, because we've had the follow-up for this one, because it was in July, so the 3 months after one, we had 4 respondents, not much. So I'm not giving any statistical significant result here, but understanding, when we were asking them about whether they understood the concept learned, they were, it was again, 3 months later, they recalled that they liked the ones that were direct instruction better. However, I must say, we didn't explicitly tell them these are direct instructions and these are 5 Cs. That it was hidden to them. So we just asking them about the actual workshops. They were given by the same person, and he, Dan himself, he says that he tried to be quite even in, everything except the style of the actual workshop. They wanted more time with App Inventor. They felt that it was too quick. And we were talking about 2 days. And this is something that we didn't hear, they need more time. 2 days is not enough. If they want to learn things properly, they need more time than just 2 days, which is fair enough. Okay, that's what one of the teachers said, that he liked networking. This is the introductory, the result. You don't need to look at all that, but essentially the summary is that while the concepts were understood fairly consistently for all of the constructs, the Scratch session was the one where the teaching methods were preferred. And this was not the one that we used the 5 Cs framework for. It wasn't the constructionist one, it was just pure direct instruction one. And they didn't like the collaboration. They really didn't. These are the questions for the focus group. Unfortunately, the screen is not very good, so you can't really see them. It's 9 of them. And because we want to use these for when we offer this year, if Google gives us the funding, which we are quite hopeful they will, we can improve the workshop. And also that we can start preparing, if I convince my university, which is also quite likely, start preparing proper professional development for teachers in this area. What things do I need to look at? And because you all have done things with teachers, I really, really would appreciate it if you could give me some hints. So these are the questions I'm asking, if you can just sort of... The first one is, what pedagogies do you use when teaching programming and computational thinking? So this is a few months after they've done the workshop. We've told them about computational thinking. We've shown them activities that they have taken to their classrooms. So we want to know, when they use those activities in the classroom, how do they use it? So I think that's sort of a reasonable question. Which pedagogies out of these ones that you use do you think your students prefer the most? That's what you were asking your students, your teachers, right? Like when they were saying that, I don't like this pedagogy, but my students like it. So sort of tapping into that, what do you think your students like? How do they like learning about these particular things? Where do you look for resources? Because that's important too, because sometimes they may be finding things that we don't know about. So where are you finding stuff? Do you think that the resources need to be modified at all to suit your needs? So how much tinkering do you do? We think that's important too, because we think that tinkering is very important. So that's another question. Is there any support at your school for learning programming and computational thinking? Are there any organizational technical issues, challenges at your school that prevent you from doing this? Are there any after-school or extracurricular activities that involve programming at your school? Excluding what we've done with you, have you done anything else in terms of professional development for learning to teach how to do programming? And have you discussed the new digital technologies curriculum with other school staff? And that's it, that's me, thanks.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
In my experience, students that learn in a constructionist way feel that it's hard for them and they don't like it so much because they start thinking and it's hard to think. And they used to, to just read instructor and follow the rules, and now they have to do everything by themselves. So it is common, and it's probably the same research. And for this, I was wondering, what would you like to know? I mean, what are you looking for exactly? That's the question. What do you want them to do? For me, it was interesting to tell them to describe an activity. To describe for you an activity that they're doing that they think that following, maybe even videotape it, and they can bring it back to the focus group so they can collect data.
That's a good idea. You see, I knew I had to.
I know. But the question is more, what exactly would you like to collect? What do you want to know?
Research question that I put. We want to know about how teachers experience professional development. Right? So what we want to know is not so much how they take it to their classroom, but how they experience it themselves. Because we really want to give them the best professional development that we possibly can give them. Right? And of course that professional development has to be translated into their classroom later on. But we want them to be enthused and to like what they're doing, because if they don't like it, then chances of them actually using it in the classroom are pretty slim. So that is what we want to find out, is that number one.
The first one was about what pedagogical models do teachers use. I'm wondering, do you actually think your teachers are able to identify the pedagogical models that they use? Just from my own experience in Ireland with student teachers, they kind of draw a blank and they say, well, we do active learning.
Okay, yeah, they can say things like active learning, but they can talk about student-centered pedagogies and elaborate a little bit on that. And they certainly do talk about constructivist theories, because it is taught in IAC 2 or 3, I think it is the course, when they learn all the different theories. So some of them would be, many of them, most of them, I would even dare say, would be able to articulate that, or at least they can explain to you. And maybe you can tell them, oh, I think what you're doing is X.
Just because, again, just in my experience, although the teachers have been taught it, they don't remember it because they see it as abstract theory, which is not relevant to the day-to-day classroom.
Yeah.
And it's,
Yeah.
they don't see it as relevant, so they don't retain it.
Yeah, so if I do get a blank face or an answer that is not, I would actually try to list, what's the word?
One of them is the learner reports, which I find quite interesting. I don't know if you've heard about that. It's like open-ended questions. It's a question like, what have you learned? What have you learned about yourself? What have you learned that is not true about yourself? What have you learned that is not true about your thinking about this topic that you've learned about, and stuff like that. And I got very interesting results from that. So I have not really analyzed the data yet, just looked through it a bit, and there were very cool answers in there that I had never expected. So that might be something that you could just look at as well. And then there was, I think it was the first question of those 9, which concerned the pedagogy. And I just recently gave the core questionnaire to teachers that have conducted teacher training with me. I haven't yet looked at the results, but this actually triggers their PCK and asked them about, well, how do you teach, what other methods that you're using and stuff like that. And it's a pretty long questionnaire, and you have to define big ideas that you actually want them to comment on. And it takes a lot of time to fill it in, so you should really do it with teachers.
He's got a whole PhD to think about it.
Oh, yeah. So
started.
So maybe I can send you the papers on the questionnaires later if you like.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Yeah.
Teacher training with trying to implement the constructionist pedagogical frameworks, I don't know how to call them. And one of the things, and then we did research, and one of the things I found was a lot of teachers didn't like it. And I actually have it written down, which amazes me that teachers would actually write down that they didn't like it because they had to think. Whereas this was in Mexico, but another thing that I documented was that it actually took teachers a long time to change the way. Teachers tend to teach the way they were taught. And it takes them a long time to actually change. It's changing a culture, it's changing cultures. And so it takes a long time. What we found out in doing a nationwide research was that it took, on average, for the most motivated teachers, 3 years, to actually change the way, they think about not how to teach, but also how they are being trained, both things.
Can I ask you to, all the things that you've written that are paper?
Yeah, I'll send you.
So that Google Scholar doesn't die from all my...
This is developing into an interesting discussion or exchange of opinions, experiences, because I experienced similar things like that you said, like teachers would have liked an instruction, how to do it, and they didn't like to think, because teaching is like having a good plan and outline, and you just have to do it, and this really can turn into a problem here of professional development. Well, we were trying to treat this a bit the same in this workshop, but also in another series of workshops on projects and in CS lessons, where we actually made the teachers to the experts, and we explicitly told them so. So very often, well, you're university, you haven't been in school for 10 years anymore, so you know something, but like this pedagogical stuff, theory doesn't really connect to me. So what if you tell them they are the experts, and when you have your something and you ask their expertise how to bring it in class, how to change the concept, how to further develop the concept, then it really motivated them to get into it. They suddenly themselves try to explore it, like the weak things on theory, and then came up with lots of suggestions. They like to suggest it, because that's what they do every day, like find the problems and suggest it. And they did the same in the workshops, and suddenly they were really motivated, and suddenly they cared about the pedagogy, and it really improved the workshop and the next workshops itself as well.
I think we break, which I don't know how long it will be, but thank you so much.
And so in the center of this slide we see the world, or Earth, our globe, and then